All right, we want to welcome everyone to DisruptHR Salt Lake City, the vlog. And we've got Scott Johnson, CEO of Motivosity here. And Scott, I'm so excited to have you here.
David, it's great to be here.
No, it's great to have you back. And, you know, jumping right into it, your talk when you spoke at DisruptHR was about Deloris.
Don't be Deloris.
Don't be Deloris. Do you want to just kind of introduce our audience again to who's Deloris? Why does it matter to you? And, you know, what's the big deal with the Deloris?
Well, Deloris is really our favorite person in the world because she's such a stark contrast to who we really want to be. So just, you know, as kind of a recap, Deloris is the person who loves rules, who loves compliance, who sees the future in process and compliance, who loves to take the fun out of everything. And it's the Deloris in the company that brings about an environment that really just makes people want to quit.
Yeah, it's the, you know, I've been in a lot of organizations, and I have organizations where we have a lot of policies, and it's hard for people to navigate, understand, and it's kind of this adult-child factor. Do they feel like an adult? Do they feel like a child is what I see a lot of times. Here's a Deloris question, right? Deloris would ask, you know, don't you need policies? Don't you need some rules in place? What's your opinion on rules as far as, do you have any at all? Do you have a certain amount? What's the right approach to the rules, regulations, and policies in organizations?
You know, clearly you need rules for things to happen predictably. Rules aren't the solution. Like, so many times, the Deloris will come up with rules thinking that that's what's going to enable people to be successful or be happy or whatever. And it's really, the rules aren't anything in and of themselves. Like yesterday we were in an event and heard about this great visionary company who changed their 13-paragraph dress code down to dress appropriately.
Yeah.
And like, they were hailed as this great visionary. Well, it's a Deloris that would sit and write rules about how everybody should dress and then somehow think that that's going to make the workplace better or more successful or productive or something, and it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about an experience I've got. I'm trying to finish my basement, and I went to the city, and I was asking about permit processes, and the rigmarole I went through just to understand what's written down, what can I do, what can't I do. I walked out realizing I just felt like I went into the HR department that doesn't have anything written down. It's go over here, find this. No, you can't do that. And I felt like a child, right? And I think that's when I listen to your talk and when you talk about it, when we talk about policies in general, you know, you have to have the guardrails that don't break the law, but it reminded me of what you talked about. Like, how do we treat people like adults? How do we help them feel like adults? And with Motivosity, I think what you guys do, and you want to share with people, you guys are flipping that on the head to help people interact, talk, and be a social organization that we can treat each other with respect, excitement, and build it together. Can you share a little bit more about what Motivosity does to beat Deloris and overcome the need for Deloris?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, we ask the Delorises to do something that makes them very uncomfortable, which is to trust their people. We will sit down with the company and say, how willing are you to give your employees an influence currency that they can use to help other people build the business and be recognized for what they do without any management approval whatsoever? And man, a lot of them just really get stumped on that because they're not ready to extend some trust. But that's at the core of what we do. We call it an influence currency, and Motivosity lets employees give each other small monetary bonuses for doing good things. And what happens is the social component of it connects people across the organization. You start to find problems getting solved faster, more directly by people who know what's going on. They're able to recognize and thank each other. It becomes really meaningful to the front line. And we think really that's the way the business should work. You know, one thing I learned as a CEO in my previous company is that the front line really knows how to solve every problem if you just get out of their way. And what happens is executives think they know so much, and so they pile on all the structure and you know, they kind of want to dictate to everybody. And what executives don't realize is that, man, all the tools for progress and innovation and thought leadership and it's all with the front line. And if we can just like enable that and kind of like eke it out of people, then things really take off.
Yeah.
And so that's why we exist. It's to make people happier about being at work. Well, what makes people happy? The fact that they make a difference, that they're trusted, that they're connected, and they're recognized for what they do.
Yeah, and when I think about what you guys do and seeing the demo of what it does, it flips it on its head of the traditional top-down rewards and recognition. Some managers remember to do it, some don't. Some aren't close enough to understand it, and having all employees give each other feedback, having the monetary ability to do it. I have, as you guys study in the organizations you do it, I have to imagine that it not only helps employees in feedback and talking, but it probably helps the managers be better too, because they're more aware and seeing what's going on to help.
Yeah, it really does, and oftentimes it kind of almost drags managers to the party because they now see things that are happening that they had no idea was happening before. And so, you pull somebody in to have a performance review or something, and you can see, well, you've been recognized for all of our company values. You're like reaching out, you're connected to other departments. They're thanking you for helping them. You're really a meaningful part of this company versus, how'd you do on the little goal that we set 6 months ago? It's totally different.
So that's one thing I was going to ask you is a lot of people may not know that you started up and created an organization that's now Workfront. It's a growing, large organization, and now you're at Motivosity creating something, but what did you learn at Workfront that drove you to create Motivosity and what you do there, and how do you operate differently in your new company than you may have operated before you got to Motivosity and started up Motivosity up?
Oh yeah, I could talk for so long about what I learned at Workfront, good and bad, and more time than we've got. But one thing I noticed at Workfront, like we thought, we always wanted to have like the best culture and the most engaged employees and have it to be just the most, just awesome workplace. And we did all the free soda and unlimited PTO and the break rooms and the company picnics and the mandatory dodgeball tournament and all these things to build a camaraderie. And yet, as I obsoleted myself and stayed on as chairman, hired a CEO, some of my favorite people in the company would come to me and say, Scott, it doesn't feel special. It doesn't feel like I make a dip. Like, I don't think anyone really notices what I do or even cares. And I think I may look around for another opportunity. And I started hearing this, and I was like, wow, all this stuff that we do, it isn't the right answer. There is a right answer, and I'm going to figure it out. And so that's really why I got, into Motivosity. It was figuring that out.
Yeah, figuring out culture and because the thing I take away from your talk, from the interactions I have with you, is how do you get people talking, interaction in a social way that helps uplift the organization versus just telling them what to do, when to do it, did you even do it, and having more negative interactions, uncomfortable interactions. It creates a flow of conversation, it seems.
In my talk I started with this ridiculous example, which is a true story about a lifeguard that actually got fired for saving somebody's life because he did it outside of his assigned zone. And corporate behaves so much like that. On the flip side, I heard a story about a group of sales guys in a Motivosity customer who were struggling with a product issue, and it was coming up over and over and over again, and they could never get it prioritized to be fixed by development. It goes up the chain and over, and then it gets lost.
Yeah.
So they put together some of their appreciation money and asked the developer that could fix it directly to fix it. The guy fixes it on a Friday night. It takes him like an hour. It's done. Everybody's happy. This guy gets recognized by the whole sales team. The whole sales team's happy. He's totally happy for being the hero. And it didn't follow the traditional, up the chain and over and then get lost somewhere. They actually got it done. And so now they're super engaged because they made a difference in their company. And we were the influence currency that allowed that to happen. That's what we see happening all the time.
It's that autonomy, that ownership, and that growth. That's
Yeah.
great. Scott, I got one more question. I love talking to you about culture and what you guys do at Motivosity and just your passion for it. The other thing you mentioned in your talk was surveys. You kind of bagged on the surveys where a lot of organizations, and my organization, we're talking about how do we get that feedback on how are we doing as an organization. And I've experienced the survey process with large organizations where we send out a survey, it's a major ordeal, and then 6 months later we get back on the feedback and it's changed, the feedback's changed. What were you getting at when you were talking about surveys in your talk? And what's the right way to get feedback from people other than surveys?
Yeah, Deloris loves surveys
Yeah.
because it seems like you're doing something. If you go home and ask your kids what they want for dinner, that's a survey. That doesn't feed the kids. Like at some point you have to do something.
Yeah.
And just asking, guess what? There are solutions out there that say we're an engagement solution because it's a survey. Well, at some point you have to take action, and I would submit you already know what the survey results are. If you're not doing peer-to-peer recognition, you already know that you're going to have low scores in am I recognized? Do I work with my friends? Does my boss understand and care about me as a person? You already know you're going to be low in those three areas because you're not doing the thing that would raise those results.
Yeah.
And so, you can do a survey and say, okay, we got employee engagement, we're doing a survey, but you have to do something.
Yeah. I think we're out of time, but I love talking about what you guys are doing, and in my experience in HR, it's always a challenge. Human relations is a challenge, and the companies like yours that are trying to help companies master it, once we can figure out how to master the human relationship in an organization, that's where it explodes and companies succeed. And so, Scott, if there's anything else you want to say, I'm going to give you the final platform, and then I just appreciate you joining us, speaking with us, and helping the audience understand what you guys are doing and what your passion is for culture and feedback and interaction in an organization.
The only other thing I want to say is when you do finally let go of the reins, life is so much more fun. Even in HR, life can be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
You just, lighten up on some of the compliance things, do some of the things that extend trust out to the people. It's like magical, and it makes everyone's life better.
Yeah. Well, I've learned a lot in our discussion. I always learn a lot, Scott. I appreciate it. And I wish you well in success.
Yeah.
In Motivosity, anyone who is interested in Motivosity, I highly recommend looking into Motivosity because, it's a tool that helps people talk, and that's what we want in an organization is talk and give feedback. So thanks for being with us, Scott.
Right on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.